Being recorded.
Hello, how are you? This is Rudy Lozano, broker for PRG Platinum. Thank you guys for joining us. This is a um, continuance of our contract that we covered on Tuesday having to do with FHA financing. The contract did include all the updated revisions and such, where it clearly stated that compensation had already been negotiated in previous other agreements. Once again, exclusive right to list for the listing agent, as well as buyer's agent through a short or long form. So um, compensation. I hope and pray that the real estate community will come together and realize that the seller, if they offer only one compensation to their agent, means that they limit not only the rest of the agents in that brokerage, which in our case, it's right at 200 agents, as well as the 14,000 other agents that are in the city. Okay. So just so that you guys know the numbers, there's 14,000 realtors that are members of SABOR, and approximately 115 statewide and 1.8 million nationwide. Okay. Will those numbers shift? Are we seeing people exit the business? Absolutely. Many folks work from home, work for a small shop, work for a broker that works from home. Maybe the brokerage isn't prepared to provide guidance and training and coaching and mentorship and those kinds of things. Real estate had already been complicated. I mean, because nowadays, since I believe COVID, I mean, seems like I wake up every day and everybody has a problem. You know, people are being difficult on the other end. So no doubt about it. Uh, your attitude and your perspective of the other side, whether you're doing intermediary with an agent in this office or with a different total agent outside this office, rest assured, guys, my philosophy is that it's a team effort. It takes an army to close a transaction, and it's give and take. We all, each one of us, are trying to just do the best job that we possibly can, uphold our fiduciary duties, take care of that old car, right? As well as try to negotiate the best deal possible for our respective clients. At the end of the day, starting in, if a listing agent realizes that you need the rest of the real estate community for you to accomplish your goal to list and sell that home, get it under contract and get it to closing, involves another agent. Because one of the things that I need for you guys to understand is that the moment that a seller decides not to pay a compensation, they eliminate 75% of potential buyers. Okay. More than 87% of transactions in the city of San Antonio involved co-brokering a transaction. Okay. What does that mean? That the probability that you need another agent to close on this transaction, because that person's bringing what they're paid for, is a highly qualified candidate that's already been through pre-qualification, pre-approval. You know, they have their financing secured, and then that allows you to block off your weekend, so that way you can expose that client to the inventory of San Antonio and hopefully write them up, because then that house matches the needs of your client, and then you're being compensated for being the procuring cause, marketing that property to your client. You know, even that it even made the list is a blessing, right? And that you walk through the door is a blessing. That you wrote an offer up, that you reached common grounds and got it under contract and got it to the title company and start the process is another. That it got to closing, that involves another 100 tasks, is another. Okay. So once again, it's a win-win when the buyer's agent and the seller's agent work together, and that the seller understands that you need a realtor on your side, but then the buyer needs a realtor on their side. It's a profession, guys. there's licensing involved, there's competency involved, there's contracts involved. And no doubt about it, and I keep on saying this, the only people that do not need a realtor is a real estate attorney. Because an attorney who does malpractice or general law, needs a realtor. It's a specialty, right? So once again, I hope and pray that the community comes together and we make this transition as easy as possible. And my philosophy is work with other agents. There's a lot of new agents. There's a lot of agents that are lost. They're like I said, they're some of them aren't attending the coaching and training, but there's a lot of folks that don't have it available at their brokerage. So I certainly encourage you that if there's somebody that's lost, my goal is to ensure that if I'm going to be involved with you on a transaction in the future and you're not where you need to be, bring them in. I'll be more than happy to get them through that learning curve, so that way it's a pleasant experience or it's a win-win in the future. I mean, because it's a very small community at the end of the day. You will end up doing 2, 3, 4, 5 transactions with the same agents. Okay. And everybody started as a new agent. So don't be a jerk. Don't be mean. Don't be ugly. When you see that somebody's deficient, it's okay to go, hey, appreciate the effort and everything, but hey, I'm going to do the revisions on my side. I'm going to point them out to you. I'll go ahead and email them to you. And then if you can do them on your end, so that way it's a learning lesson for you. But at the end of the day, you get to teach somebody something, but that's because it's in your benefit, whether you represent the buyer or the seller. If that person has the potential of helping you sell that listing, why not? Why not help them fill out the contract? Okay. If it's going to allow you to sell that home, because maybe your seller is going to stay in town and you need that buyer's agent that might have just gotten his license. You might have just needed to coach them and mentor them through the process. So that way your seller can close. So that way you can go and sell them another home. Okay. So once again, all means necessary. There's not anything that's not part of your job description when you're trying to protect your client's interests or get them to where they need to go. Okay. So I am a fond believer that the lending community will be a big part of the solution to our industry. Okay. VA has already made adjustments because prior to in the last 30 to 45 days till they changed the rules on VA loans, a veteran couldn't pay for compensation. Not $1. No retainer fee, no transaction fee, nothing. Whatever compensation was being offered by the seller, you had to take it. Okay. That's not the case anymore. You can negotiate compensation up front and determine if it's a good fit for you, to determine if you even want to make the business decision to take them on as clients. Because if somebody flat out came to you and said, well, I'm a veteran, and you knew that VA wasn't allowing you to get paid, all of a sudden, I mean, you wouldn't discriminate, you wouldn't be mean, but all of a sudden you're not responding to phone calls and emails. I can't show you the home. For what purpose? I'm not going to get in 100-degree weather, and put miles on my car and spend gas, and then all of a sudden not be compensated. Okay. So glad that VA made that decision, because the military community would have been impacted horribly. Nobody would have wanted to work with a veteran. Okay. But that is not the case. So whether it's FHA, VA, USDA, conventional, non-QM, hard money, whatever, it is now the policy nationwide that needs to be negotiated up front. You have to set expectations accordingly with your client. So the compensation comes from several places. Number one, you're going to tell your buyer that you're going to try to collect the compensation first from the seller or the builder. Number three, from closing costs or closing cost concessions. And then the fourth bucket, it comes from them. So how you negotiate the deal, I mean, just know this is that the compensation has always been in the sales price. The buyer, I mean, the actual seller all these years had thought that they were paying a compensation that didn't be, wasn't their responsibility. That's not the case. The compensation has always been in the price. Okay, so it's financed in. The buyer gets to pay on it for 30 years. Okay, that now they made such a big deal about it, and now it's clearly identified, and now there's a potential for a seller to reduce their expenses. But when the market is challenging like we have right now, I mean, what's going on right now, guys? Rates are high, the economy's bad. So what is a seller in the existing market dealing with? People aren't walking through homes. How many of you have been doing open houses here lately and nobody shows up? Right? Well, first and foremost, it's 100 degrees outside. Second of all, people put it on the back burner. Second of all, they understand that if they finance a $400,000 home at 6 or 7 or 8% interest, depending on their credit profile, that might not be an option for them right now in 2024. Okay. But at the end of the day, there's things that you can do to be able to finagle those numbers. And what is the new home community doing? Okay. They're compensating realtors 4, 5, and 6 and 7% compensation. And we know who they are, right? We know the ones that are paying compensation, and we know the ones that are being very aggressive with it. So the other thing is they're helping with closing costs, with prepaids, with buy downs. They're throwing in washer, dryer, refrigerators, sprinkler systems. Jesus, they're even throwing in cruises. I mean, and the dog next door. Why? Because their motivation is to sell more homes. Because when the market was good, they didn't need realtors because people were walking in by themselves and they were writing up offers like crazy. And right now, people are walking in through new homes, guys. I see it every day. Every day I get to see price reduction, price improvement in the existing and in the new home market. And I understand that a seller doesn't have the purchasing power or the muscle like that a new home builder does. And a lot of people ask me, well, why is a builder doing that? They just did $20,000 in price reduction 60 days ago, and now they're doing another price reduction, but they're still paying all closing costs. They're still guaranteeing a rate of 3.9 or 4.9. Why are they doing that? It's because they know that better times will come. In a year or 2 years or 3 years, what's going to end up happening? Oh, is this for me? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So what ends up happening is that better times will come, but they want to keep their people employed. Okay, they do not want to lose their tile people, their framers, who puts the masonry work. It's their team. So they rather take extensive losses right now, knowing that they need to keep their people, because in a year, or 2 years, or 3 years, and with what we know what's coming, we're going to get overwhelmed. It's anticipated. We were anticipated to have 50 million people by 2050. It's anticipated now that we're going to have 50 million people by 2034. Okay. So however you slice it and dice it, that means that there's going to be a tremendous need for the housing industry, whether it be rentals or homes, because there's a lot of work being relocated to Texas. We're blessed beyond belief. We're leading not only the nation, but Texas. Before, I'd go anywhere, on vacation, and I'd tell them I was from Texas, and if you're from Oklahoma, they talk to you, kind of thing. And most other people didn't care. And now the question is, what's going on in Texas? I mean, that even Elon Musk ended up there, and then brought all this industry, and now we're becoming an IT state. Tons of industry. So once again, guys, you have to know a little bit of what's going on in the marketplace, and just know that what we're going through is a temporary situation, and you providing solutions to your clients, whether they're the seller or they are the buyer. First and foremost, I would hope and pray that somebody taking on a listing has sufficient amount of skills and knowledge and education and the concept of upholding their fiduciary duties. And let's review that. The old car: obedience, liability, disclosure, care, accountability, and responsibility. A listing agent taking on a seller's property and listing it and making the commitment for only 3% in the 7th largest city in the country, because we are big. This isn't Manhattan that you can, it's only 4 miles. If you live in San Antonio, Texas, you need a car. Okay. And if you're not conscious that you need a buyer's agent to bring their highly qualified client, why do you think the builders are paying you guys? Because if there is somebody that is engaged with buyers, it's realtors. When you have your name tag, your magnetic signs, your signs outside, you're doing open houses, you're door knocking, you always welcome any opportunity to be able to talk about your favorite subject, you and real estate. Right? My 2 favorite subjects. Everybody wants to talk about real estate and how you're going to help them. All right? I'm your guy or I'm your girl. All right? The best realtor in town. But once again, guys, the builder community is going to help. They understand that you need realtors to be able to move inventory. You need salespeople on the ground, mobilizing. You're not on salary. So for them, 4, 5, 6% commission on once ever so often, it doesn't mean a lot. As long as all of their people in the back are employed. I made a very similar commitment a year ago, guys, that I made a commitment that I would take 0 money home, but I wouldn't let go of my staff. Because I knew that times would change and I needed them. I could not do what I do as a broker and as a business owner if I don't retain my talent. And these people have been with me for over 20 years. So once again, the builder has the same concept. Let's keep the talent. Let's keep the quality, because we're going to need it in the future when we get crazy busy, because you don't want to start with new people because you don't know if they're good workers, if they're going to show up and all that other stuff. So once again, bring your highly qualified client, but be strategic of what you expose them to and where you deliver them to. Okay. So now it's your responsibility to find out what the compensation is, as well as the concessions. So once again, guys, I hope and pray that the listing agents will not make a terrible decision and take on a listing for less than full commissions. Because on the contrary, my philosophy is negotiate from a position of strength. What is our company policy? My broker believes in 6 and 7 and 8% compensation. Do you want limited service at 6? Or you want full-blown Neiman Marcus caliber level service with a drone and professional pictures and multiple open houses? And because what it is at the moment that we take on your listing, it's not just me, it's the other 200 people that are part of my army. Furthermore, my business associates that are part of the same professional trade association, which is the San Antonio Board of Realtors, or TAR. Here local, it's 14 other people. Why wouldn't you want to mobilize 14,000 realtors, so that way we bring them and expose them to your property? That way you can accomplish your life goals and dreams, and you can take on that new job, across the country or across the world. Okay, you need to sell. The realtors are going to offer a solution. All right. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to transition into the financing. The builders offering crazy incentives because they know that if they can make that payment as comfortable for a buyer, because the rate should be probably in the 7s or 8s, 6, 7, or 8s, depending on your credit profile, right? But if a builder can guarantee you a 3.9 and a 4.9 and make that payment $100, $200 more comfortable, because we're all fighting that inflation, right? The probability that you will go under contract is a lot higher. So the builders get it. We want to pay realtors, number one. And number two, we want to make it easy for a home buyer to afford this home. And then we want to make it a pleasant, awesome experience because we want them to tell other people. Let's give them the washer, the dryer, the refrigerator, the sprinkler system. It's all marketing, guys. And who makes it happen? Who happens to be one of the most important variables in the equation? Realtors. Because that's what we live for and breathe for and talk about, right? And we get to impact the lives of others through real estate. We change lives, guys. What we do is important. So knowing the programs is important as well. When you're a realtor, whether you're starting off or you're already in business, you need to build your team. And one of the most important people in the equation is your lender. Because once again, if your buyer's telling you they don't have any money, then all of a sudden your lender better be telling you this is the plan. We're going to do down payment assistance through the state, through the city. We're going to do a first and a second lien. They qualify for a grant, and these programs offer this. Hey, in this case, the contract that we discussed on Tuesday is a listing on Braun Run. And if you notice, I put in $24,000 in closing costs because that is the maximum closing cost that a seller can pay on an FHA contract to a buyer.
That's 6%.
6%. And then all the paperwork that you got today gives you an outline of FHA, VA, USDA, and conventional. Okay? 6%. Well, if the property's been on market for 1 day, I doubt you're going to get 6%. You're lucky to get 3 or 4. But if the property's been sitting for 60 and 90 days, absolutely. Because you don't know the need of the seller. You don't. I just sat with an agent the other day that they were under contract 4 months ago. The property appraised for $315,000. Right now, the property's on the market for $285,000. And they did major price reduction. Now they're offering to pay all closing costs, the maximum, on an FHA, VA, and USDA loan. But then furthermore, now they're offering a realtor bonus. 3 buckets, guys. When you call me after hours or on a Saturday, Sunday, or on a national holiday, your listing's not moving after doing countless open houses, marketing, and boosting it on social media and everything. The 3 things I will always tell you: price reduction, offer to pay closing costs, prepaids, buy downs or whatever, up to 6% on an FHA, 4% on a VA, 3% on a conventional, 6% if they're putting more than 20% down, as well as USDA at 6% as well. So do the maximum. And then furthermore, I will always encourage you to pay the realtor a bonus because there's no incentive like the financial one. You want to sell your listing? Pay the realtor bonus. You want to hold on to your listing for 120 days or more? Offer 2.5 or less. Okay? There's no incentive like the financial one for the consumer as well as for all the parties involved. Okay? So know your programs. FHA is right now, with the rates being so high, the builder's able to do what they're doing because that loan product they're offering is FHA at 3.9, 4.9. They're buying rates in blocks, guys. Their purchasing power is so strong that they're locking 1,000 rates blocked through their banking line and giving people that rate because they're committing all of those loans to a certain banking line. Okay, so know your financing. So when you take on the listing, tell them, hey, I'm going to try to do the best job as possible, but I need my teams internally as well as the rest of the realtors of San Antonio. And furthermore, the moment that you don't offer a full compensation, you eliminate 75% of the buyers. The moment that you don't include, when you see these listings that say cash and conventional, at that moment, you've eliminated 3/4 of the buyers in San Antonio. Because what is the city of San Antonio that we're so blessed to live in? It is called, AKA, Military City. And guess what? They're traveling the world with their family. Their spouses take care of the family. Sometimes they don't work. They're cash poor. And here in San Antonio, bless our hearts, it's called Fiesta City. The party starts on Tuesday and ends on Sunday. People don't have any money, and then here are the demographics here is that we take care of our people. And whether it's the Asian community, Vietnamese community, the Hispanic community, we're not selfish. We take care of our elderly. I mean, we have generational households in San Antonio, Texas. Okay. So at the end of the day, just know this: if people are cash poor, you need to be prepared. The probability that you're going to get an FHA or VA offer is very high. And that means your seller being prepared to pay full compensation, and that the economy is horrible. You're going to need the concessions. And once again, guys, you want to protect your client's interests. And before you take them on as clients, on the listing side, you need to do them justice. Help me help you by bringing 14,000 people. That way we can get you to your destination. Okay, because if not, you're eliminating 75% of the people. And this isn't Las Vegas. Have you been to Vegas? Okay, well, the chances your house are going to sell are like a casino. Is that what you want? You know? Yeah, a roll of the dice. You know, real estate is a science. If you pay full commissions, you offer to pay closing costs, you reward the realtor with a bonus, the probability that you are going to be successful is high. But you have to price the property correctly. And right now in this marketplace, guys, even pricing the property correctly, having an appraisal done is not indicative that somebody's going to want to pay that price. Because the moment that the property doesn't sell every 7 to 10 days and you don't have walkthroughs and you don't have offers, that is a clear indication that the seller has rejected your price. Okay? So
You mean the buyer?
The buyer, no, the marketplace. Not only the buyer, but the marketplace. There's too many options, you know, too many options in the new home market for folks to think that unless you're the cream puff, because the properties that are selling are the cream puffs. The properties have been completely remodeled, whether it be through an investor, because a lot of people hate investors. No doubt about them. I don't. As long as the body of work is good, of good, high quality, that it's going to qualify for FHA or VA or some type of first-time homebuyer program where they just fix the electrical, they fix the plumbing, they have central air heat, they remove the lead-based paint from inside the house. I love investors, the high quality ones, right? That want to impact our community in a positive way. The ones that do a crappy job, I don't care for them, but then they might not qualify for FHA standards because then they're like tearing the property apart. But anyways, at the end of the day, there's people fixing their properties because they understand that if they want top dollar, they need a brand new kitchen. They need to update their restrooms. They understand it. What do I need to do to make sure that I can sell my house in summer? Because by the end of summer, I need to be somewhere else, in a different school district, taking the job across town, across country, right? But no doubt about it, the solution in all of this are two things. Number one, the realtor, and number two, the lender. So what ends up happening is that you need to know that going up front, because that's one of the things that you're going to tell your buyers. I'm going to arrange financing for you guys. I'm going to help you with insurance. If there's legal questions, I'll reach out to title. I'll get title to reach out to you. Okay? Whether you're married, divorced, mother, father, died, whatever, home inspector, termite inspector, HVAC person, plumber, electrician, we're concerned about the settlement on the property. We'll do a hydrostatic test to make sure that there's not a leak in the foundation. And if the home inspector recommends that the roof needs to be looked at, we'll get the other agent to get the seller to file a claim. All of that you get to do. And then these people nationwide think that you shouldn't be compensated. And all of this you get to do in 100-degree weather. Okay. So once again, realtors are the solution to this problem right now. The builders have embraced you, and the realtors that have experience, that know that there's a lot of realtors in this business that won't do both sides to the transaction, guys. And even if you were that realtor that was going to take the listing that thought they could bring a buyer, if it's 3%, why would you do two jobs for one commission? Because remember, the buyer can sell you just like the seller can sue you. The seller can sue you just like the buyer. And our deductible is $2,500 on each side. So don't do it, right? It's too much work for one compensation. Nobody shows up to a regular job after working 80 hours every 2 weeks or 160 hours a month, and then your employer tells you, oh, well, we're not going to pay you for 160 hours. We're going to pay you a quarter of your money. Would you show up next month? It's not going to happen in this industry either. No, people aren't going to show up. Okay. So once again, you have to be strategic. You have to add value. You have to add knowledge. You have to, once again, guys, the number one pillar or the number one person in your team should always be your lender. Because in our case, I mean, because once again, I know that there's a lot of brokers out there and they all say that they're number one and that they're good looking or they're pretty and da 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 da. That means absolutely nothing. Your broker, I mean, I have heard from many of you through all of these years, especially when you guys have had problems and issues with other agents on contracts, properties not appraising, multiple offer situation, one better than the other, and how to weed them out and how to determine highest and best use of your time, money, and resources and select the right contract and just problem solving, right? Is majority of the real estate brokers in the city are just real estate brokers. I actually am a mortgage broker and an insurance broker. I was a closer for housing and urban development for 2 years, servicing 36 counties. I used to close 8 to 12 deals a day. Okay, so those legal documents that you see at closing, and I still close today. I just can't be the notary on the documents. If there's ever a closing here in the office, I can easily do that closing in 30 to 45 minutes. Okay, I just can't be the notary on it. Okay, but once again, I specialize in problem resolution and giving you guys hope and giving you structure and pointing you guys in the right direction and surrounding us with resources. We do all things real estate around here, guys, for that reason. When you guys are going in to take on a listing and work with a buyer, hey, we're not a regular brokerage. We have an in-house lender, in-house insurance company. We have over 20 notaries. We can take care of it all from beginning to end. At another broker, they might refer you somewhere. And here we're a one-stop shop, So what ends up happening, guys, is that we're a team. We're designed to help you close more business. And you guys knowing the financing piece is crucial. So all of this paperwork that you have, we took the time or Keith took the time to actually break down the programs. FHA, VA, USDA, unconventional. It's a cheat sheet. You need to know it like the back of your hand. In this case, we're covering FHA. 3.5% down. 3.5% down, one loan for the better rate. Now you can combine it with down payment assistance with the state, but then the rate ends up being higher. If you have your own down payment, your rate's going to be in the 6s. You have to get it from the state. They will give you, let's say, a 7.25 or 7.5, but they will apply it to the entire loan. The higher rate. Let's say they gave you down payment assistance for $10,000, you'll end up paying significantly more for those $10,000, more like 30 to 40 if you take 30 years to pay off that mortgage. Okay, so it's best for you to get a gift, in my opinion, or take the money out of 401k, but get the better rate on the first. But if you absolutely are just cash poor, you can do down payment assistance through the city or through the state. Okay. Now you can also do a first and a second. 96.5 of it would be, let's say, for example, 6.25. And on the second lien, which is 3.5% to accomplish 100, that rate will be 2% more than the first lien. So like I said, 6.25 on the first and 8.25 on the second lien to accomplish 100%. That seems to be a more strategic way to do it, because you could easily pay off 3.5. I mean, on 200,000, that's 7. On 400,000, that's 14,000. And you could easily pay off. You could pay that off in like a car. Exactly. It's only applied to the 3.5. That it's 2% higher than the 96.5. That way, the better rates on the bigger loan. Okay. So, I mean, once again, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You just need to know about it. So when you're talking to people, well, I don't have any money. I don't have any down, because then you're needing to make decisions on whether you're going to work with them. Well, if you don't have any money for down payment, okay, I know I have a bond, a grant. We can do a first and a second. Okay. But then all of a sudden, they don't have any money for your compensation, which, I mean, you'd still want to take them on as clients if they have income, assets, and credit. But you want to dictate through the short form or the long form. I mean, you want to secure them at an open house through the short form. Or let's say you met him at a grocery store. Hey, I'm needing you to fill out my information about broker services, which requires for me to tell you who I represent in the transaction. This next form is the short form buyer's representation form, where I'm going to take you on as a client for the next 24, 48 hours because I'm going to go show you 3 to 5 houses because we just met and we can determine if we want to work with one another. Okay. Or if you want to submit an offer, well, then there'll be other paperwork. Well, once you decide you want to work with them, or let's say somebody's being referred to you, use the long form. In the existing market, you're going to put on there 3 or 4% because we have a lot of agents in our office that charge 4%. And then on special provisions, you're going to put your retainer fee. If they're from out of town, retainer fee of $1,500 or retainer fee of $2,500 or your $500 transaction fee. Okay. However, on the long form, you want to put 3 or 4% compensation that will be collected from the seller, the builder, from closing costs, and the difference will be collected from them. So don't lose the deal. Give hope. Tell them you're a master negotiator. You're going to do your very best to try to collect it from the other 3 slots first. So that way they don't have to be out of pocket that money. Because no doubt about it, guys, we all get to do stuff for free. Realtors more than everybody. This is the only profession, guys, that you get to do all of this work and there's still a chance that you might not get paid at the end. However, if you collect retainer fees up front for your time, especially when they're people from out of town, it will diminish the risk that you at least get paid for your gasoline and for your time for the weekend and stuff. Because I would never take on a client from out of town thinking that I was some type of glorified tour guide without collecting a retainer fee. Because if they had good intentions to buy and they were wanting to look at $500,000 homes, them paying me a $1,500 or $2,500 retainer fee was insignificant. I mean, I would offer to rebate it at closing if they purchased something, but if they didn't buy anything and they wanted a glorified tour guide, sure, not a problem. It's going to cost you $2,500. Okay, so know your worth, guys. Collect at least your cost of doing business. But like I said, knowing the FHA program, the VA program, USDA, conventional, it is your responsibility to know them, guys. Because just so that you know, there isn't a slot. There's not going to be a slot for the compensation in the future. So what's going to happen is that the contract already states that there's already agreements previous to this offer already in place, an exclusive right to list for the listing agent, and you will already need to have your compensation agreement in place. But if you verified that the seller's offering 2%, well then with your contract or before, you need to submit your compensation between brokers. Keith at KW, you told me it was 2, or you told me it was 3, or hey, you told me it was 3 plus a $2,000 bonus. Kind of like this property on Brown Run, we are offering 3% commission plus a $2,000 bonus. Okay, it's on MLS through August 16th. On the 17th, it might no longer be on there. But either way, whatever difference you negotiated for yourself, whether you're that person that only wants to collect 3 or one of those persons, there's like 10 or 15 of you guys that charge 4%, and some of you charge 4% plus $500 or $1,000 transaction fee. For those people, they've already been doing it. Okay, so just know compensation comes from the seller, the builder, closing costs, and you knowing the program becomes ever so crucial. Because if the lender needs to know, I brought you this buyer, and I appreciate that you want to get him the best rate possible and the best loan program possible, but I'm going to be short $1,000 to complete my compensation. Make sure that you include my $1,000 compensation as a closing cost to ensure that I don't leave any money on the table. Okay? So I know that I'm going to have a lot of discussions with you of, hey, how can I collect the money from the difference of the closing costs? It's going to be a common discussion. Okay? There is a cheat sheet for seller concessions as well. One of them is the program, one of them is the concessions. And remember, guys, it's the concession plus the compensation if it's outlined. So right now, my advice to you is that it will need to be in special provisions that the buyer will pay the difference of the compensation, if not being offered by the seller or the builder, or if they didn't want to ask for closing costs and such. So a lot of counseling will need to take place between amongst your client and amongst your lender. And let's talk about the lender now. If you're bringing a lender, the business guys, and the lender doesn't want to divulge information, and it's your client, okay, you have the right to ask questions. You don't need to know what their credit score is. They can tell you a range. Do they have credit scores over 580? Do they have credit scores over 680 or 750? Yes. Okay, 750. Okay. Do they have sufficient money to cover down payment and closing costs? Mm-hmm. Compensation? Mm-hmm. They didn't tell you that they bank at Frost or that they have $1 million in their Merrill Lynch account or what the sequence of that account number is. It's a yes or no question. Intelligent listing agents, I take many of those calls. First and foremost, when somebody works with me, I send out a pre-approval telling them that they're approved. I text, I call, and I email the listing agent. And I will even tell them, hey, I know it's Sunday evening, but for this client, I'm available. Okay, they're exemplary or they're exceptional. I'm available for the next 2 hours. And it could be 8 o'clock on Sunday. But I want my client to have the competitive advantage, right? Communication, open dialogue, being available. Because for the realtors that aren't, I hate those realtors that say, oh, I'm not available. It's 5 o'clock on a Tuesday or on a Friday. I'll be available the next business day. Da, 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 da. Well, the market's hot. It's summer. The market's liquid. You know, you need to you uphold your fiduciary duties to be responsive. You don't have to take my call at 8 o'clock or midnight, but certainly take 2 hours out of the day on Saturday or Sunday to go, hey, thank you, I'm in receipt of your contract. It'll be presented on this day. Or there needs to be instructions to the agents. All offers will be presented on Tuesday of the following week at noon, right? So, or on their website, they will have to disclose paying full compensation plus a bonus, or not pay, or paying zero. Okay, because there's already people that are already have gone on board and talked about their philosophy of compensation, like Open Door. Open Door 0. It's a credit to the buyer of 2.65 to be used for the buyer's purpose, not for a compensation. That means the buyer has to pay their agent. Okay, a lot of their houses won't be shown, or they're going to sit. All right. So once again, at the end of the day, know the financing piece. You can ask. I have gotten phone calls here telling me, well, your agent asked all of these questions and she's being nosy or he's being nosy. And da, 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 da. Well, what were the questions? They were just trying to identify if your client is the best candidate, because then they have to have a conversation with their seller and they need to ask, is there a contingency that you're not disclosing? Have you collected full financials? Have you reviewed the tax returns? Because there could be itemization. They can make 200,000, but if they itemize 180, they have the right to ask all these questions. Is there anything that you need to divulge to me right now that could potentially impact this transaction from not closing? How confident are you that you're going to be able to close this transaction? Is it their money or are they getting a gift? Is it their money or are you doing down payment assistance? You have the right to know all these questions. I'll defend you. I'll back you up all day long. All you're trying to do is uphold your fiduciary duties to your seller, and ask all these questions. Because if you have 20 offers, how do you decipher them all? Who's the most qualified candidate? You weed them down to 1, 2, or 3, give your seller 3 options, but then you've already done your due diligence. So if you're doing it as a listing agent, why can't you do it as a buyer's agent? Now, Mr. Lender, I'm not asking you to give me account numbers and sequences, but I need to know all of this information. Are you in a position to divulge that to me? Because remember, we're a team. I brought you the client. We work as a team, and they know that you and I work as a team because I told them that I was going to arrange financing. But it's 100-degree weather. Unless you're going to show up with me at 8 o'clock in the morning or at noon on Saturday, Sunday, if you don't want to tell me anything, I'll expect you to go look at houses with me for 4 hours between 12 and 4 on a Sunday. Can you do that? And then we'll assess your level of motivation on releasing information to me. You're not divulging confidential, privileged information. Most of these questions are yes and no. You need to give me assurance that I'm not wasting my time, because if you waste my time, we won't do another loan together, right? Highest and best use of your time, money, and resources. Okay, you guys are the ones that are out there in 100-degree weather kind of thing. So knowing, we're not asking for you guys to become loan officers, but you need to know enough about the financing to be able to determine if you need to be investing your time to try to help somebody accomplish their family's life goals and dreams, right? So take it serious, take it to the next level. Do whatever you need to. I'll back you up. I'd rather you be that aggressive realtor and ensure that you advise your client correctly and close your deal, rather than be, oh, well, I didn't want to ask. Okay, well, I can't even imagine being in 100-degree weather and I didn't ask. Do it up front. There is a do and do not list, guys. Do and the things to do. Don't quit your job. Don't apply for credit. Don't do crazy things. At the end of the day, there's also the do not list. Do not co-sign for people. Don't change jobs. Don't go from a W-2 to self-employed. Don't change industries. Once again, you need to give them direction. You need to review this with them. You need to get them to sign it. Remember, didn't I tell you not to go buy a car and you bought furniture, 2 days before closing, or hey, you bought that RV? I believe it or not, guys, I've had to tell somebody, congratulations, I'm buying an RV, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to decline your loan. Okay, because it was a $1,500 RV payment that disqualified the loan. Yes. Absolutely. And then, of course, guys, there is the documentation needed. Driver's license, social security card. You guys should be collecting driver's licenses upon your first viewing for safety reasons. Okay, or be introducing them to somebody, or bring your husband or your spouse or your children along for your first showing if you don't know them. I'll be doing open houses together in a joint venture. But social security cards, pay stubs, bank statements, federal tax returns, W-2s. Can you go get keys so you can say some words? And then one of the other things that I wanted to talk about also is FHA requires for your protection, get a home inspection. Okay. I know that there's a lot of brokers in this city that don't want you to recommend anybody. They don't want you to be present, but no, you are their advisor. You've created a client relationship. You being there, because how somebody else talks to them isn't how you talk to them. I've been present at a new construction from a reputable builder in the $500,000 price point, and I had this bozo of an inspector, and I saw his name, and I was like, I know I've had dealings with him in the last 10 years. I went back and I'm like, sure enough, it's him. He's the guy that thinks that he's almighty and that he's some doctor or some engineer or something, that he has this aura that he's a god. And all of a sudden I went tick for tack for them. Like, this is a brand newly constructed home. I've looked at your resume. Nowhere did it say that you were a structural engineer. You're talking like if it's a brand new home. The builder is giving you a 10-year structural warranty. There's engineers, that their licenses are at risk, and they're engineers. You're not. You're just a home inspector. So you need to calm down, because how you're acting and what you're saying, you could potentially force my buyer to cancel the contract, and you're not even an engineer. Unless you can pull up a degree right now, I'm needing for you to revise your comments and your tone with my client, because you're alarming him. You say, well, why are you being so aggressive? Why are you being so aggressive? Because you're misrepresenting the property. It's a brand new home. Okay, so once again, you being present to defend your client's interest is important, because then you get that bozo of a home inspector that barely passed the exam, that whatever, that they don't speak well, they don't talk well, they're grumpy. How you say things is just as important of what was as what was said, right? The message gets lost with your personality, right? So if you're grumpy, you know, you could force that poor family, especially a first-time homebuyer that doesn't know anything, or that single family, or that a single mom that doesn't know anything about mechanics. Your fiduciary duty is to be there and advise and protect, and calm the storm. And hey, ask more questions. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding you. Can you explain it to me like I'm a 3-year-old? Because I know my client doesn't understand if I don't understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, can you
I've kind of had a
can you repeat that?
Situation with a loan officer.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to communicate. It caused so much confusion, because in his own mind he thought he was very articulate, but he was really just muddying the water. It was so frustrating.
Absolutely. Guys, it's not who's right. Nobody cares about what degrees you have. Nobody cares that you're right or you're wrong, kind of thing. I mean, or you think that you always have to be right. You have to figure things out and have to help your respective client, make them understand, but once again, at the end of the day, it's delivering the message that needs to be delivered, where you're helping somebody, not where your actions are detrimental to somebody. And that's the reason that builders, guys, if you ask a builder, do you like transactions where there's a realtor involved, or one where there isn't one? And most of them will tell you, oh no, we like it when the realtor's involved, because when something happens, they're not kicking me in the ribs. They're going through their realtor, and their realtor's being professional. The client over there screaming and yelling at the realtor, and then they decipher the message. So once again, because we're mediators, guys, we're intermediaries, we're facilitators. Okay. So hello, Keith. Melissa. Hey guys. So obviously you guys know that we're privileged to have a mortgage company and insurance company. There's a lot of people behind us. There's folks that are here to help you guys, which include Keith Bach, Melissa Turner, who's been in the mortgage business for many years. She actually was Megan Cloud's former operations manager. She now works here. Okay, has years and years of experience in the mortgage business. This is Melissa Turner. Okay, tons of experience in the banking industry and everything. And then, of course, Keith has been a realtor already for like 6 or 7 years and transitioned into the mortgage. And he's done very, very, very well. And then, of course, Nancy Martinez, who's also in our office she's still a realtor and a loan officer while she figures things out, as well as there's Augie Guerra, who's also trying to transition into the mortgage piece. So once again, I mean, some people end up being in insurance and mortgage, not as much as a realtor. I mean, because it's challenging being a realtor, right? And some people love different aspects of a different industry. But at the end of the day, and then we also have Margaret Garcia, who's also a loan officer as well. So it's Keith Bach, Nancy, Augie, Margaret Garcia, as well as our processors, Alejandra, Tina, as well as Saida is now one of the processors in our office as well. So once again, guys, if I'm not available, you guys can reach out to my team. Somebody will help you, point you in the right direction. Okay, we're here to help you. There's not anything that you can't call us or let us know about. Insurance, mortgage, title, whatever, will point you in the right direction. Okay, there's many times that I sit here and I call the people that I call, and all of a sudden they pick up and we resolve your problem. Okay, because it's a quirky situation. Okay, so once again, go out there. Know that you're going to be okay. You're going to survive. You're doing better than most other folks, because at least you have the love and support from us. Okay, I've made it my personal mission and goal to ensure that we not only thrive as a company, but survive well into the future. Okay, so if you guys need anything, reach out to my team. Once again, Melissa and Keith and Nancy. Okay. Yes. Alrighty, guys. Take care.